Ladies and gentlemen, Happy New Year. I was going to say hello, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. And as announced, this will be a tarot. It will be my first tarot for beginners. And I've chosen to work on different tarot decks just to give you an idea. And for each tarot deck, I'll exactly talk about how it's going to work. How will um, the each deck works and what the beginner can expect and what the more advanced tarot reader can pick out for each deck. If you can hear me, please write to me. Tell me the audio's fine. Tell me it's working well, so I know, because I'll be able to see I think I'll be able to see your chats. So let me start by starting up if everything goes well. I've been practicing all day. Let's see if it works. I'm going to give us a slideshow. There you go. And the slideshow will be starting now. I hope you can see that. Good. All right. So this is just the title of the slideshow, and so I'll start. The first deck that I've chosen is this Visconti Gilded Tarot. Why? It's a particular deck. It's huge, very large stock, thick and large compared to other decks. And the Gilded Tarot of the Visconti is a great deck for beginners. And one example is that, well, as I will be repeating for other decks as well, an exercise that would be very helpful for beginners is to look at the card, trying to imagine their meaning based only on what the figures in the card suggest. After a while, you write them down in a sort of notebook, and you'll see that after a while, you as a diviner will be able to look at the list that you've written down, and you'll see that the more personal the meanings you write on the list, the more it will come back to help you when you read other decks. And besides being useful to read the cards, the list that you write will be an excellent way to understand your progress when you start reading for yourself and looking, asking questions, and using people that you know for this purpose as well. And for the more advanced reader, there is these 22 major arcana are considered archetypes. They are universal meanings, and these images are strictly linked to a particular vision of the world. Each card is an allegorical representation of a moral concept, and the more expert tarot reader can try to associate each card with these specific archetypal meanings. Now let's go on to the next card. The next deck is the Universal Tarot. I call it the Universal Tarot, and it is what most people would call the Rider-Waite Tarot deck. I don't see anybody is writing. I'm wondering if there are any people in the room. Perhaps someone might want to write to let me know, because I'm working with a specific program and I only see certain things, but let's see. Maybe you can write to me in my email to see if there is something wrong with my live feed, perhaps. And so let's go on. This is the Universal Tarot. Now, this is the best way for I don't want to say the best way, because I'm sort of not a fan of the Universal Tarot, but there is a way to go around this, because the cards' images, of course, will suggest their meaning. And if you look at the image, a beginner who doesn't know anything about tarot will have will feel emotions and understand things, or imagine, visualize meanings that will help them in understanding. And again, here too, I always suggest to write down the meanings and specific meanings for what you see first off when you take these cards into your hands. It doesn't mean that looking at the same card at another moment in time will give you that same feeling. So it's always best to add to this list as you go along. Now, for the more expert readers, there is a symbolic reading here. This is it is say, let's say that um, with respect to them being a so-called universal tarot, there's a very symbolic alphabet, so to speak. I'll call it an alphabet, and it is difficult not to take into account for those more expert readers that there are symbols in the cards that elude someone who sees them for the first time. The idea here is that every element inserted into the card has a specific meaning for that specific card. Now let's go to the next. There's the Egyptian tarot here. Now the Egyptian tarot for a beginner is to be used just like you would use the Marseille Tarot, which I will show you in a few slides further down. It's based on essential meanings and key words that will bring to mind the meaning of each card. So here I would like to suggest you writing down specific key words for each card, which will help you. And you have to bear in mind that the Egyptian symbolism of the cards adds a certain mystic quality to the interpretations of these individual cards. And for the more expert readers, you can see that the Egyptian symbolism in the cards will take on a different meaning for you. Beyond the traditional meanings that you may intuit or may already know, there is an Egyptian mythology meaning behind these cards. Now to the next one, the Angel Tarot. Now the Angel Tarot is a tarot card, the tarot deck that many people enjoy using because it's very easy to intuit the meaning from these cards. You should at this point be able to take 2 or 3 different decks. When you go to purchase a deck, I always tell the people who I consult for, look for something that stands out. Look for something that jumps out at you. That would be the best, your best bet, because it means that there's something there for you. Now, there is here also that you need at this point when you're shopping, let's say, and you need to compare one tarot deck to the other, you have to bear in mind that there are similarities in many of these decks and differences, and what you want to do is understand the differences more than anything else. Now for the more expert readers, there is a meaning behind these cards that is based on good and evil, black and white, this dualism that signifies a certain judgment behind the cards. There is, however, and what I suggest is that you go looking for those areas of gray beneath the surface of what you see initially to understand what that card could suggest to you. An expert tarot reader can use the Angel Tarot to encourage this process, to try out this process of seeing between, those different shades of gray between the black and white. Now, you will be stimulated with this topic of good versus evil. That should stimulate in you an understanding of life that we don't always see black and white. We know that everyone's situation is not black and white. This is a tarot deck that will help you get there and understand that. Now, this is the Marseille Tarot. The Marseille Tarot is are oftentimes, now there's there's this jury's still out here. The jury's still out, and let me see. I'm going to write here something. Hi all. Let's see if you see that. I'm not sure if anyone. Maybe I have to go back and turn on the comments. Maybe that's not turned on. In any case, the Marseille Tarot are, on the one hand, there are many that say, oh, this is a great deck for tarot beginners, because it doesn't give you those universal meanings that the Rider-Waite have, I say, mistakenly given to people who start out with tarot. With this type of tarot, you have the ability to use your own intuitive skills. Here I am. I see hi all there. It's probably slow. So maybe someone else could write to me and let me know if they're there, if you're there. But I don't think I'm using this program right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. But in any case, now, with this deck, you'll find that many of these cards, like the card on the right of this slide, those are definitely swords. And on the left, they are definitely coins. And then there are two major arcana, the star at the top and the lovers at the bottom. Now, between those two on the right and the left, you will be hard pressed to understand exactly what those two cards could suggest to you, but a more advanced card reader would look at the colors, look at the symbols behind the colors, and they offer you a point of view. They offer you the ability to develop your own point of view, which I find is invaluable, especially when you begin. Let's go to the next. This is my favorite. Absolutely, I have to say, this is my favorite deck of all time. The Initiatory Tarot of the Golden Dawn. Now, here too, it is difficult. This is quite a complex tarot deck, and it is not suggested for beginners. The Golden Dawn, what could be of use for the beginner is to compare this deck and other decks that bear the name Golden Dawn, the Tarot of the Golden Dawn. This is the Initiatory Tarot of the Golden Dawn. See how different they are. The artwork here is much more modern, and there are decks that are intricate, black and white, with so much different symbolism from different cultures around the world. Very, very difficult to read. But the more expert tarot reader will have here a challenge, and I like challenges. It will be difficult for you to try to decipher the symbols that are hidden in each card. And here again, I always, no matter how expert you are, I always suggest a comparative analysis between the decks that you may know and this one, and other Golden Dawn decks. Let's go now to so cute, the Black Cat's Tarot. You might take a really close look at these cards. They are so cute and so adorable. They're certainly adapted for the beginner. It is a deck which allows you to use your intuition quite easily. But if you are not sure of using your intuition, if you're afraid of just using your intuition, they still can be used quite easily, because they suggest key meanings. And here too, I suggest getting a notebook out and writing down key words and meanings that speak out to you for each card. And now this type of deck for the more expert readers have a chance now to go more in depth, more so than just the superficial reading of of these cards. These tarot have been conceived to, um, let's say, to improve your own internal development and growth. Now, that was a mouthful, and that was a huge statement. This deck is used for a form of meditation, believe it or not. This allows you, because there are animals, and the animals, no matter whether they are cats or other animals, they're very strong in this type of, in this sense. And this deck, for the more expert readers, will help you to booster your self-esteem and go more in depth of what it means, what spirituality means. Now, here we have this odd deck that many of you have probably not ever heard of. It's the Eteia Tarot, the antique. They're very old cards. Now, for the Eteia here, for the beginner, as you can see, take a close look. They are numbered cards and they have a key word. Now, unfortunately, I never suggest tarot readers to use that keyword specifically, because these cards were fashioned in a time when those keywords had another meaning. And so to use these cards today, there is a jump in time and in dimension. So it's quite here too. It would be best to take out your notepad and see what kind of intuitive meanings you can get from this, but you can glean from this. Also, what is interesting with this deck, this is a deck, I don't usually like to use reversals when the cards turn up upside down. This is a deck that should be used with reversals, and it will very clearly give you a specific meaning. Now, for the more expert reader, this deck can be used, can be exploited to go more in depth about the Book of Thought. About the Book of Thought. The Book of Thought, if you don't know anything about it, look it up. Thought is Thoth. Look it up and see the historical background and what that means. Now, it also allows you to go more in depth in terms of numerology and devise your own system of reading in this sense. Now, the next deck is the Silver Witchcraft Tarot. That at a first glance, you get the impression it's a very modern deck. And indeed, it's fairly modern. It is, you really can, the beginner here can really go to town because it's very clear. Not only is it very clear, it's clear, again, I have to stress, today you might write down certain bits of meaning that they suggest to you, but in the future you might have a different meaning. You might get a different meaning when you go back and look at these. What is important here is that you update your notes from time to time, and the expert readers here who already have been reading for some while have to also update their skills in writing into a certain notebook all of their notes. For example, they should ask themselves the question, how do I identify, let me get a glass of water. How do I identify with that card? Or you can ask yourself, how can that card help me? In what way can it help me? Or you should also try to answer the question, how does that card oppose me? How is it in opposition to me? Or Another question you could ask is, what is it suggesting to me in order for me to help solve my problem? How is this card suggesting I solve my problem? And what kind of advice does this card give me to improve my future? Now, the Sexual Magic Tarot. The Sexual Magic Tarot is the last deck that I'm going to present to you. And here, this is quite a deck. And the Sexual Magic Tarot can be used like any traditional tarot deck, of course. But you have to bear in mind, the beginners about you out there, that there is it is based on erotic images, and that is part and parcel of the meaning. Also, there are symbols that need to be studied in each card. Similarly to what I said for the other cards, you need to write down notes in terms of what they suggest to you. But bearing in mind that the body is the key element here to reach the soul. And for the more expert readers, you can use this deck for magic rituals, and knowing that if you're into magic and you can create magic spells, this is an excellent deck for that. Just remember that you need to be very specifically careful in terms of what you're doing, and you need to understand these cards very well in order, because they are sexual magic. This is a deck of cards that will allow you to work sexual magic, if that is, your cup of tea. Now let me see if I can get back to me. There I am. Okay. I hope that you could see me. I don't know. I was hoping I would be able to get some questions, but apparently I must have done something wrong. So, I think that if you bear with me, I'll take a look at my YouTube page to see if I'm streaming, which I don't think I can do. I don't think I can, but let me see if I can't organize that. Now I won't be able to. So what I wanted to do was open the question and answer session, and I wanted to show you these cards. So since I don't have I don't have that possibility, because apparently I must have not turned on my question and answer, I will leave it for the next tarot for beginners. After there's a learning curve, I understand. So in the next session when I announce this, I'll probably be able to announce it a little better, at least a day in advance, and at a time that might be suitable for many people. Thank you for joining me. Now I hope I'll go back and see what happened there. Namaste, ladies and gentlemen, until we read together again, and until we see each other again. I'll be back. I will be back. Bye-bye.